okay, perhaps that's going to happen, but we don't know because our government is trustworthy and they never want to expand the size of the government.
All right, we're going to talk about the pandemic treaty. This is something we've been following for weeks and months now. This is the World Health Organization's power grab. Basically, they want, instead of you, say, living in the United States or England or France, no, you live in the United World of the World Health Organization, and they decide what the rules are in the place that you live. Now, one more time, what this is a treaty that gives the World Health Organization powers to decide when you're in a pandemic, what that means, what is the risk of a pandemic, how you should be eating, living, and using your food and your land to prevent future pandemics, as well as what you should talk about to prevent future pandemics, when you should go into lockdown, how your governments should track you, how they need to survey you and keep track of your passports, and how they can implement and enforce. All of this is in the World Health Organization's treaty that I have shown you over the course of the last few weeks.
That's a lot of damn rules. That's a lot of damn rules. Okay, we got this vandemic going on. I'm just gonna call it that so I won't get. So we got this going on, and here's all of the rules that go along with that. And it may seem like it's very difficult on us, and we're upset that we have to do this, but it actually works for our benefit because we will be tracking you. We will be monetizing off of you. We will pretty much be controlling you. We'll be manipulating you. We'll be providing you the information that we feel necessary for you to have. We're going to teach you how to communicate about it. We're going to teach you how to talk about it, what to believe, what not to believe. Is that not what indoctrination is, bruh? Times 12, in my opinion.
Interestingly enough, you may say, okay, Natalie, that sounds crazy. I'm going to Google it myself. Go ahead. Google will tell you happily that this is not a problem because in the last few days, ABC, CNN, AP News have all sort of ratcheted up this coverage of this World Health Organization treaty, telling you it's no big deal and that this has been debunked.
That should always be a red flag. When the Associated Press, the New York Times, the Washington Post, they are all running stories telling you something. They're all in cahoots.
Well, it's interesting because they're like, no, it's not this. They're not doing what I want you to do, which is see the screenshots that I bring you of PDFs from the World Health Organization, and I point out that's concerning. That's concerning. Here's a link. Read it yourself, right? And see if we're wrong.
It's the inoculation we talked about.
Right. Oh yeah. What was it called?
Yeah, it was
inoculation.
Where they want to inoculate you against this idea that it's bad.
That's right. Idea inoculation or something like that.
I like the word inoculation. I think I'm going to go ahead and start using that more. Inoculation. They want to inoculate you. That's all it is. Why are you trying to inoculate me, bruh? Oh, you're going to try to inoculate me after all I've done for you?
Yeah, they're telling you we're debunking this and we're the last word on it.
And they're pre-bunking it.
Yes.
And they're sort of pre-bunking it because they know what's about to come.
I mean, just do a little Google search on your own you can do this in another tab. Leave us up on a browser if you don't mind. And just search for World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty, and you'll find about 4 or 5 within the last week articles telling you it's totally fine. Nothing to see here. It's kind of crazy. So I'm going to tell you at least what's going on because in the United Kingdom, there have been parliamentary discussions about this, and 2 experts testified last week warning about this. One is Dr. David Bell, who is actually an ex-WHO officer. The other is Garrett Wallace-Brown. He chairs global health policy at the University of Leeds, and they both outlined how this could reshape health policies in a major way. So Dr. Bell, we're going to maybe give a little bit more time to because he was a former World Health Organization officer. What he said kind of shook me because he told us that the World Health Organization knew what the health implications would be for lockdowns. Look at this. He outlined how the pandemic treaty gives the power to reach into each country's budget and demand financial contributions as it sees fit. This is true. We showed you just this about 2 weeks ago. This shows that the WHO can develop an evaluation matrix from each member state, meaning they go into that country's books and decide who contributes what. So right now, we know that WHO has been disproportionately invested in by private investors like Bill and Melinda Gates. We know that those investors' interests are put ahead of member states. We also know now that they can put into place this organization which says, we're going to tell you how much you pay us. We'll look at your book. So it will be expensive.
So you mean to tell me that not only can they tell us what to think and what to say and how to move and where to go and they can track us and all this other stuff. They not only have all of the control, they're gaining so much control of every single citizen, all of your information, even samples of your DNA. Don't forget that. So they get to have samples of your DNA, all of the information pertaining to your whereabouts at all times. And they demand that the different states have to contribute in the way that they say you will have to contribute. We tell you the amount. We tell you how we want this information disseminated, and we're going to control it all. Not only that, but we got billionaires like Bill Gates that's constantly pouring into us financially as well. Whoever owns who are geniuses. They're freaking geniuses. That's the only way I can look at it.
Not only that, from Dr. Bell's testimony, he talks about the low mortality rates of and how he says we at the World Health Organization knew that it was disproportionately more dangerous for elderly people, virtually not dangerous for other populations, and that we knew what the mortality rates would be, and that played out. He also says, though, that they had predicted other terrible things associated with lockdowns. Watch.
So despite that, the lockdown measures that were introduced for the first time in wealthier countries with older populations were also pushed by WHO in Africa with the expected outcomes that WHO had also predicted earlier. So we see a similar situation in South Asia where the UNICEF estimates about 250,000 children died just in the first 9 months in 6 South Asian countries from the lockdowns, not from. We have 100 million people extra in poverty, 10 million girls forced into child marriage over the next 10 years because of closure of schools.
They're forced into child marriage over the next 10 years because of the closure of schools. Show this to all the people that are walking around the United States just always saying that they're so oppressed. Just saying.
You know, the World Bank notes that this is pushing particularly the poorest countries into extreme poverty. So this was predicted. This is what happened.
Wow.
So he's talking about all of these like awful things in South Asia that children will have to be they'll be pushed into poverty so much more so that they will be more child brides, more stillbirths, more child marriage, 10 million more child marriages within the next decade. That's awful. That's not human trafficking. This is a consequence of poverty.
It is a consequence. It's a consequence of poverty. It's also their culture. And as a friend told me one time on Twitch, and I'm on a Twitch stream right now, meeting new people daily. When it comes to different cultures, it's not a whole lot we can say, unfortunately, because we know that kids are innocent and that kids deserve time to be kids. They deserve to be kids, right? They should be able to be kids. But we look at it from our culture and how we were brought up and how we think. We have love and concern in our hearts for children. And we know the makeup of a child, usually based off of the children that are here in America, in our culture. Sometimes we like to separate our culture because if the powers that be don't separate us, we will go out of our way to separate ourselves just so we can take hold to some echo chamber group that believes mostly what we believe. That's how algorithm was created. In some sideways form or fashion, because we only want to be around those people that agree with us. We only want to see things that make us feel good. That's just our makeup. So those cultures that move like that, of course, we're not going to understand. We're not going to agree or anything like that. It's just, we want the kids to be kids, and they are marrying them off by the millions. It's crazy. It's even worse when they're in poverty. I don't understand that part. What does being in poverty have to do with wanting to marry a child? I don't get it. Never would get it at all. Don't even want to get it. All right. I just want the babies to be okay.
And what is the consequence of that? Will roll forward that more children will have children.
What's up, Simply Dutch?
Those children will be born into poverty. It's a vicious cycle. Now, I had asked you to do this little Google search earlier. What did it tell you?
So you asked me to Google World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty, and people in the chat were like, "Come on, Natalie, you know we don't use Google." So I had to use Google here in order to get these results.
This was homework.
Oh, this is when they're selling their beautiful baby girls to grown men because they don't have any money. Wow. Okay, back to the World Health Organization. Sheesh.
I think a lot of people still probably use Google for searches. But anyway, here's the search.
No, I want you to go to news, though, specifically. But okay.
But just anyway, here's these results from just doing a search, right? So here's the BMJ.com, World Health Organization's Pandemic Treaty. The first result is WHO at the top. And then all of it is all UK Parliament, World Economic Forum, Pandemic Treaty, what it is, how it will save lives. And here's Reuters, of course, another mouthpiece of the regime. How the World Health Organization could fight the future. Nature Journal, global plan for dealing with the next pandemic just got weaker.
One, that this won't shape America, right?
Here's the AP says, no, don't worry about this. It won't reshape America.
Go to the...
Don't worry about this. Don't worry. Relax. It's not going to bother you. You'll be fine. Yeah, when they usually say that means it will bother you and you won't be fine.
I want to show something at the bottom. So then it goes to Congress. But here, what I love, the only article that challenges this is a sponsored article from the Epoch Times.
Oh, they'll take your money, I guess.
So they'll take your money to advertise. So literally, they have to run an ad just to get their article surfaced on why the pandemic treaty is a horrible deal. They have to pay Google in order to get this article to surface.
Yeah, I see that, right? It's crazy. The people who are going against it, in order to go against it and be shown, like you want your story to have some life, you want some eyes to land on your story, you're gonna have to pay us. And then on top of that, after you pay us, your story is still going to be on the bottom of all the other stories. It's way too much money in this, brother. Pay us, and we'll put you on the page. We'll put you on the first or second page. You'll end up on there. Probably you'll be number 9 or 10 on the list. But you know what I mean? Still pay us, because if you don't pay us, your story ain't going to be shown at all, and people will just see how great this whole thing is and how it's not going to bother you. You'll be fine.
Okay.
At the bottom, mind you.
Bottom of the page. News. You want me to hit the news tab?
Yes. Because I see there's a fact check just within the last day. There are a few others that you're not picking up, but in the last week or so, there were many just saying like, no, it's fine. It's good. Don't worry about that. Like, AP on that story said fact checked and it's false, that it will not, like, that's not even something you can really fact check, right? That's maybe your prediction, but you can't say for sure that it won't have this consequences. It's a non-zero probability that it will reshape society.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just old fashioned, but I prefer just to have my information given to me, and then I read that information, and then I come up with my own opinion on whether I think it's good or bad. I don't need New York Times telling me this is bad, this is good, this is good. If somebody's telling me, no, this is good, it's like somebody on a first date saying, no, you can trust me, I'm a trustworthy person. I'm like, I'm starting to not trust you because you're so emphatic that I...
Oh, yeah. You can trust me. No. I know we just now met in the club, but look, why should I have to wear... Huh? I'm God's child just like you. Why would I do something to you? That's right. I shouldn't have to wear no... And neither should you.
I can trust you.
Well, we've also fact-checked the fact-checkers, right? So we know where these fact-checkers come from. Facebook has former members of the CIA on its staff. I mean, we know where these fact-checkers come from. So they're a part of the regime.
But this is not a fact check. It's a hypothetical situation that this pandemic treaty would reshape society. You cannot declare that true or false. We can't even tell you it's going to happen. We're telling you what powers they're seeking, but I can't tell you it's absolutely going to shape a society, yes or no.
My man Colonel B, y'all see him inside of the Colonel B Switch. I mean, this is Colonel B Twitch. Y'all see him all the time in the comment section. He says most problems with treaties or laws happen down the road because of unintended consequences later. The treaty that ended World War I is credited with being responsible for starting World War II. But of course, folks don't think that was going to happen at the time. They thought it was going to be, okay, this shuts it down. We are fine, everyone. Everyone, we are good. Oh, we not good? We not? God dang it, duck! World War II starts.
That's a stupid fact. Like it's a declarative finale to a hypothetical situation.
And because
you can't fact check that.
Right.
It's stupid.
And we here on this show, like we will point out that this government has never taken more power than it needs. Right. The executive branch has never gotten bigger. They've, after 9/11, haven't expanded the size of government. So if we look at it, we look at the track record, we could say, okay, perhaps that's going to happen, but we don't know because our government is trustworthy and they never want to expand the size of the government.
See, y'all starting stuff now. See, this is Redacted, all right? Redacted, they don't mind starting stuff. And the link to this video and the rest of their videos is like another 15 minutes to go on this video. I want y'all to go check it out for yourselves.